Welcome to the Social Living Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Green, and my co-host, Jam. How you doing?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. I'm good. I'm good. I've had 2 days off this week, so yeah, refreshed,
Nice.
ready to go. Ready to go.
Yeah. How's the week been overall?
Yeah, good, man. Went to our Snow Lego concert on Monday in Bristol.
Ooh,
Just pop in. So yeah, it's been a nice start to the week.
that's good. Valentine's and that
Yeah,
celebrating.
of course, of course. What about you? How's things with you?
Yeah, man, it's been good. It's been good. Busy week. It's always a busy week with me, man.
Mm.
Challenging one. A lot of movement around clients and stuff. But yeah, man, we move, man. It's good. A lot of father duties this week. My son's been ill, so a lot of like clinginess and stuff. But
Mm.
it is the duties of being a dad in it, so you can't run away from that. So yeah, man, it's been good, man. It's been good. It's also been a busy week on socials. Things been trending. Obviously social media. Well, I guess Valentine's Day was a big thing. Seen a lot of women talking up the stuff about what a guy should do for Valentine's Day and stuff like that. Has it always been a big thing for you?
Not for me, you know. I don't know if it's just because of my relationship. We've never gone too mad over Valentine's. Birthdays might be different, but never Valentine's. It's never been a big focus of ours, which is fortunate because yeah, I'm not that way inclined. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy with that. But yeah, it's always been quite chilled on my
yeah,
side. What about you? How
yeah.
do you treat the missus?
For us, it's always been chilled. I feel like like with a child, it gets a little bit more difficult, like in terms of like being able to be like having that kind of alone time, if you get what I mean.
Mm,
So it does make it a little bit harder, but again, we didn't go all out. We never did go all out. I feel like there's a lot of expectations, especially when it comes to social media, for you to have the flowers. Like I saw, I saw Ashley Waters. I think what he did is he hired a private chef to come to the house, a masseuse. I think it was
mm,
who does your nails, like pedicures and manicures. What I can't remember what they're called. They came to the house and they did that. So he
mm.
pampered his girl at home and stuff. But it's like not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
Um, I seen ZZ Mills come out and say, you know, if your man doesn't make this a big deal, then he's not the man for you and all this stuff. And I feel like a lot of people who do this stuff or talk this stuff, they either not been in relationships for a long time or they're single.
Yeah. It's all the guys that are fresh into relationships that are coming out.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I've been seeing that a lot. But I did want to quickly discuss, I guess the biggest thing that probably happened over the weekend, Super Bowl. I don't even know what number it is. I'm not American, so I do apologize. But the big Super Bowl happened Sunday night, and there was what would you say, like a memorable halftime show.
Mm.
Um, their halftime shows are always something big, it's always something to talk about. But in this case, I feel like I watched it and I just felt like I was in a vibe. Like I've never really watched some of them before and felt this way. But
Mm.
this one was like a moment in time. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar,
Mm.
Eminem. Like, these are
Mary
some
J.
big
Blige,
Mary J. Blige. These are some big
iconic.
names. 100%. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead, check it out. You can see it on YouTube. But Dr. Dre being the composer who he is and basically kind of bleeding all these guys through and doing like them just being LA at halftime, I just thought it was amazing.
Mm.
It was an amazing show. And obviously mainly black entertainers as well. Obviously Eminem did his thing. I heard he even went down on one knee as well
Yeah, I saw that.
to
I saw
support
that.
as well, which is good. I don't think the NFL liked it, but again, that's another subject. But I just thought, yeah, wow, that was an incredible show. Did you get to watch it in the end?
Yeah, I watched literally about an hour before the pod. I got a chance to watch it, but yeah, again, it's an iconic moment. Just seeing Mary J. Blige just go ham like on her performance. She left it all on that stage. Like it's
Trust
good to
me,
see. It's good to see. Again,
trust
she's
me.
definitely top three of my artists. So to see her on that
Yeah,
level was it was good, man.
It's sick, man. And to think like all those artists, their prime, apart from Kendrick Lamar, maybe their prime was like 10 years ago, like even before that, and they still able to kind of hit the notes and move like 50 Cent upside down. You know, I thought, yo, that was sick. Like it was proper popping. So yeah, man, big up the Super Bowl. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I guess one last thing, obviously, we can't talk about the Super Bowl and not really touch on Arsenal, as the owners of Arsenal own the LA Rams, and obviously they won the Super Bowl. So I'm hearing a lot of talk like, now Stan Kroenke's won the Super Bowl. 180 million pounds is coming to Arsenal.
That was always going to be the story. Like the journalists had that written up as soon as the LA Rams won it. It was ready. It's there to publish. They're ready to send that out.
What do you reckon?
To be fair, they have been spending over the last few years, so it wouldn't surprise me if we did go all out. And with the summer we're expecting in terms of signing strikers and stuff like that, I wouldn't put it past them to spend that amount. But
yeah,
we're Arsenal fans, in it, we can't get too carried away. We've all been here before.
Trust me, we all have been here before. Yeah, man. I think I'm ready to move on to we got a special guest today. I have a very, very special guest for me, someone close to my heart. Yeah, like I'm ready to kind of bring this person in. Today's topic is, before we do bring him in, today's topic is how to go from an aspiring footballer to a career in medicine. Right. So I'm about to introduce someone who is like a brother to me. He's a father. He's a student. He's a very, very hard worker. To me, he's almost like a guardian angel, just because we've known each other since like 4 or 5 years old. So it's like we've kind of like almost lived like parallel to one another, and we still remained in contact. So yeah. And also we used to play football together, and now he's fully on his way to, starting his career in medicine, which is like, how do the two kind of go hand in hand? So today we want to give him the platform to be able to share his journey. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast, AJ Olabode.
Yo. Thank you for having me, Jay. Thanks for having me, Jams.
No worries, man. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, man.
That's good, man. I feel like you got a story to tell, and I'm just so grateful to have you on the podcast. And a journey from playing football to being on your way to becoming like a doctor or working in medicine, to me, or to many people might not understand, like, how do you go from this to this? How did you get there? Do you know what I mean? But I guess the first place to start for me is, let's start with football. Like, where did football first enter your life? Like, when do you remember your first memories of playing or even watching football?
So probably my two first memories, just off the cuff, was I remember going to like a Sunday market. It might have been in Lewisham or something, with my parents, and I remember seeing a Millwall kit. It was like blue, and had like the white lion, and I told my mom like I wanted it, and I think maybe for several weeks prior I'd been saying I wanted something from the Sunday market, be it like a Robocop toy or something, and she couldn't say no, so she bought me this Millwall kit. Didn't know who Millwall was, didn't know Millwall was just around the corner from my house, didn't know the history of the club, but like it was kind of my first memorabilia of a football team, and I remember just wearing it at every opportunity. Like, I think it was one winter day at school and I tried to wear the top and the shorts. My mom was just like, nope, I can't let you do that, so that's probably my first memory. And then as I just became a bit more aware of the sport by playing it, like in secondary school, no, in primary school actually, it was probably actually seeing the likes of you, Julian, like wear Arsenal kits and talk about like Anelka and Ian Wright, and I think just wanting to like fit in with the cool kids in the school. I thought I'd play football, and then it just so happened that the block of flats that I lived in, there was an Indian family that were quite big on football, and they had like kids about my age. And I remember they taught me how to play this game called 66 on the wall. And then that's probably like where the love of football happened, and like was kind of like more introduced to like the FA Cup in May. It was like the bank holiday in May, and like the game would be on and we'd be playing football outside, and maybe the mum would come out and say, Ray Parlour scored, and we'd be like, yay. So that's probably where the memory starts, man. It's kind of been like in increments from the Millwall kit to seeing the cool kids in school play football to being introduced to Arsenal, who I still support today despite heartache. So yeah, man, that's where football started for me.
I love that, because you know what it is as well. Like, obviously I know you personally, so I know that like maybe your parents might not have been like so big on football and stuff, but you found your journey through like your community. So like you go through that. I see this with so many people, like they go through this stage of like they like football, but they don't necessarily know like what team to even gravitate towards or anything like that. So you kind of get what looks nice. So it might be like for you in this case, it might be Millwall. In other cases, it might be you know, it could be Manchester United or whatever. It could be your local team. Like for us, it would have been Dulwich Hamlet. So like things like that, like it was those things that you kind of gravitate towards before you start to find out, okay, look, this guy is sick. His name is Nicholas Anelka. That's my team. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, with us, myself, anyway. Obviously, my family's all Arsenal, so it was just Arsenal. Like, especially from my dad's side, anyway. And then I definitely recruited Jamel as soon as I could. Hopefully, he doesn't regret it. But recruited. I think I tried to recruit everyone.
I blame you. I blame you for the misery.
Hey, but there were some good times. Don't worry. I know it might have been before you were born, but there were definitely some good times. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And I guess the next stage then is like, when did you start to take football seriously? Obviously, as you kind of like go through secondary school, you start to develop, you hit puberty and stuff. So you start to realize that you probably have a bit of a talent. So at what point did you say, look, I'm gonna take this as seriously as I could?
So I think it would have been about, I think it was probably about the age of 10. I'm trying to think. Probably about the age of 10, so my sister would have been about 3 or 4. So I think it was about the age of 10 that I kind of told my mum and my dad that I wanted to try and play for a team. Like you said, I didn't even know how to even go about that. Like my parents, as supportive as they were, it wasn't something they knew about. So where I lived growing up, Julian knows, like from your window at a certain time, if Dulwich Hamlet were playing, you would see the floodlights, and it used to just catch my eye, like that looks like a football stadium. I didn't know where it was, so I remember probably like year 7. That was probably the first time I probably played 11-a-side after playing like 7-a-side on the AstroTurf. That I was like, okay, you know, like I think I should try and explore what full football is like. So 11-a-side, knowing the different positions. And I remember for about a year or so, at different opportunities, I would go to Dulwich Hamlet, and they had a gym in the stadium, and I'd walk in and I would be like, how can I play for your club? How can I play for your club? And then I remember the receptionist was like, well, if you want to play football, like I recommend you contacting this number. So Dulwich Hamlet had like a sister club called Dulwich Hamlet Juniors. And at the time, they played, only a few years later did I realize that they played in Beckenham. And for about a year or so, I was trying to get in touch with someone at the club because my goal was I need to play at that stadium. And then around the same time, my secondary school were doing trials, and I was lucky to get into the team. So when I realized that like I was quite decent at football, it was probably year 9.
So like 14, 15,
About
14.
14. It was about 14 when I kind of saw, so the school that I went to, there were a few players that played at an academy level. And I realized I wasn't as good as them, but like I could keep up with them. And I was just like, if they're playing for Crystal Palace, if they're playing for Southend, maybe. And I think year 9 was probably a pivotal year for me personally because I think I was invited to maybe like the in the London schools trials. And also that year, my school put me forward to play in a tournament called the PlayStation Cup. Now, the PlayStation Cup was for year 10s, and they invited me to go with a few other people in my year. And I was like, okay, there's clearly something they see. And then probably like the next level would have been joining a club that me and Julian played for, South Bank. And it was, if I'm honest, I never knew I had the potential to score like 23 goals in a season, you know, and I was just kind of like, hey, like, I'm quite decent at football. Like, I'm very fast. And I think I was very, very coachable. And that's why loads of coaches kind of like took an interest in me. And then it was just like, why not, man? But like, it was kind of like blind. Like I had no internal motivation. So it wasn't a case of like, I'm going to go running because I know my fitness was going to count to my ability, or I'm going to do, maybe the only thing I did was like kick ups, for instance, but like I didn't know the importance of like, you know, working on different muscle groups or strengthening, you know, your heading or your left foot. I was just like, I'm really, really fast, and that's going to continue to work for me. So yeah, it was probably about between the 14 to 16 that I was kind of like, I'm going to take football a little bit more serious. But I didn't know what serious looked like, if I'm honest. So yeah.
No, that's good. I feel like also as well, you got to give credit to like obviously you talked about like that kind of like level of practice to kind of make you better, and it was kind of like almost like subconscious. I know obviously us growing up in London, we played a lot in the streets. Like we played a lot in cages, anywhere where we could really, and we used to always kind of put pressure on ourselves to be better. So playing games like 66 or I think I don't know what the equivalent is. Like in Gloucester, sometimes they play like, is it World Cup?
Yeah.
Like different things like that. Like so, the game 66 is like you have to score a volley. It has to be a volley, right? Yeah, volley or a half volley.
In 66 seconds.
You got to score it in 66 seconds, and then there's an element of you have to score more in the next 66 seconds. So if you score 1, then you got to score 2 in the next 66 seconds, or you got to score 3. Do you know what I mean? So you got to kind of do that. And if the goalkeeper catches it, you go and goal. Yeah. So like all these different things is improving your technique because we're doing this for hours sometimes. Like whether it be after school on a weekend or whatever, and you're going ham on your technique and you don't even realize. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously playing in cages and stuff like that. Sometimes it's like 30 kids and you got to keep the ball from 30 kids. Like, and things like that. You have to be the quickest, otherwise you're not going to be playing.
How do you guys think cage football shaped you as football players? Obviously, I didn't get that in Gloucester. We just had fields and potholes. But yeah, how do you think cage football helped you as players?
Well, for me, physicality, man. Like, I'll be playing with people 4, 5 years older than me, and they weren't gonna go light on me, you know. And I think besides that, there was the element of, like Julian said, you had to be quick. You had to make up your mind very quick, or someone's gonna barge you off the ball, or yeah. So I think physicality and kind of being open to a bit of roughness kind of like gave me kind of an edge when it came to playing maybe on an 11-a-side pitch and against maybe a centre back, because I was an attacker whose biggest game, was to, pull your shirt or leave a bit extra when he slide tackle you. Like, I can't recall a time, me complaining about a foul. Like, it was only when you get older that people be like, oh, go down for a penalty, or, so that was the biggest addition to my game. Like, I was down for physical tough whenever it was necessary, man.
Yeah.
What about you, Julian?
For me, it's definitely like just the close control. That was it. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, when we moved away, and obviously you'll touch on this next stage of your life, but when we started playing football at 11-a-side, you could see, I feel like that my close control was the main thing that helped me stood out anyway. And I had to, because it was like trying to keep the ball. I know I wasn't always the quickest. I was quick enough, but I wasn't the quickest. I wasn't the strongest, but I was strong enough. And what separated me was the ability to be able to keep the ball for a longer period of time and beat maybe one person, two people, or do you know what I mean? And that was my thing. So I was always try to be on the wing, beat one or two people, and then try to go for goal. Do you know what I mean? That was just my thing. Or providing, I like to do that. So me and AJ used to play on the same team, and my thing would beat a defender, pass it to AJ. AJ scores. I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? And like that was my thing. So I feel like, yeah, that's the biggest help for me anyway when playing cage football and stuff, is that close control. And I don't know if I was like best suited for 11-a-side football, but when it came to like small-sided games, I feel like it was too easy. It was too easy. It was way too easy. So yeah, man. So obviously I just touched on us kind of like moving away. So you're 16 now. You're taking football a little bit more serious. You're developed, you're quick, your strengths. And yeah, tell us what happens after that. You done your GCSEs.
Yeah. So, I think probably there's some sort of like domino effect, because I think I want to say Jam was training at Hartpury maybe at the time, and Julian went to see him train, and then he was made aware of this college called Hartpury, and Julian was like, "Oh, there's this college in Gloucestershire called Hartpury College. I'm gonna apply. You should apply. They're connected to Cheltenham Town." My eyes were like, okay, Cheltenham Town. I know Cheltenham Town. Like, if I can survive in London, I can survive anywhere. So I remember, I don't know if we did it together, but I remember us filling out a form for a prospectus. and they sent us the prospectus with the form. And I didn't know when Julian did it, and Julian didn't know when I did it. But I remember the day we both came home from school, and we lived like opposite ends of the street, and we both went into our house. And I think we both got letters from the mailman saying we were invited to interview, and we both ran out and saw the tower in the middle of the road, like, did you get interviewed? Yeah, I got, oh, when's your interview? And it happened to be on the same day, like maybe half an hour apart.
Crazy.
So it was just like, I felt like the stars were aligning. I was like, man, I'm about to go professional with my boy. I'm happy, you know. I don't know if around the time another friend of ours applied, but fast forward, we both went to our interview on the same day. Interview went really well. I think we both got a place, and then I remember we were both invited to, I don't know what it was, like a
Is it like pre-season?
Pre-season. I think we were there for like, is it 2 nights maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was before you guys went off.
Yeah.
Okay,
this
cool.
before we went off. I think the idea was the coaches there were just going to see what sort of talent were coming in for the year. And I remember we all went back home, and I think the day we got home, the following day we picked up our GCSEs. And then fast forward, we're at Hartpury now. And yeah, for 2 years, me and Julian lived in Gloucester, and we lived, breathed football.
Trust me.
What I want to know is how the first like month was culturally. Like, how did you guys kind of settle in and I guess mingle with the other boys your age? And because I know Gloucester's predominantly white, so it would just be interesting to hear like your perspective of how things were for the first month or so.
I think the first month was honeymoon period. Like, I probably didn't really. It was probably halfway through like year 1 when it was kind of like, like I'm not in London. Like, but I think in the first couple of months, you know, as with like any parent, they want to set up their child for the best of success, for the best of times there. So like my mom bought me a laptop, bought me speakers. My mom's different. She bought me a freezer when everyone else got a fridge. I think my mom sent me like bread and plantain crisp in the post in the first couple of months. So the first month was cool. Obviously, Julian was there. One of our boys was there. There was a crop of us that kind of just stuck together. And yeah, the first month was nice. It was, you know, adapting to living in. It was kind of like an ensuite room. So you had your bedroom, study table, shower, toilet. Everything was in one place. Breakfast was at the top of the hill, and you had I won't say strict routine, but like Monday, Tuesday, you had lectures. Wednesday, you had football matches. You had training on a Monday, training thing on a Friday. But yeah, it was nice. It was kind of like, it was almost kind of like, with hindsight, what I now know football academies to be like. You know, you have your jersey and you're training at a certain time. You know you're going to be at one end of the field, another person at the end of the field. You're doing drills. So the first month was nice. I wouldn't say I faced any like culture shocks. It was only after, man. But yeah, how did you find the first month, Julian?
I'm gonna say, because I remember something happening in the first month, so I'm just gonna like kind of bring that up. So I remember, obviously, we all moved to Hartpury, and there was maybe a group of us who were from London. So naturally, we're more familiar with each other. So we already know culturally, you know, we're gonna respect each other, you know, as opposed to anybody else who doesn't really understand us, right? But I feel like we had a couple nights where it's our first couple nights there. We didn't anticipate to do like shopping or like. I think one day we missed the dinner at the canteen because we just thought it might be open, and like we're all here like we got no food. I'm like, oh gosh, what are we gonna do? We're in the middle of the countryside. There's nothing here. But we noticed like other dorms have just left there. They had food. They're leaving fridges open. Like we're seeing, wow, they got Fanta, they got Coke, and like we basically went. It sounds bad, but we kind of went scheming, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna go get some food. So we managed to like sneak into someone's dorm, not into anyone's room, but like we went into like their building or whatever. Managed to get into their kitchen. They had some crisps. I think they had some Coke, and I think that was it. That's all we needed. I think there was a bit of bread, and then literally everybody came back to mine, and we watched Scarface because we just thought, yeah, like that's the like. I guess that's the. Is that the street enough, so to speak? It was like we didn't know what else to do. Do you know what I mean? And people had a food in an abundance, but they were still able to like go to the canteen. But we didn't have that luxury. You know, we had things like EMA at our hands, which is like if your parents don't earn enough, you could earn up to £30 a week to be supported by the government, and we were on that. And I don't think that even had kicked in yet. So it was like. It felt like we were dead broke, like dead broke. Like we were going to like Asda or Tesco and buying like rice and baked beans. It don't even go, but it's just what we have. Do you know what I mean? But for BIM, for AJ specifically, I keep calling you other name, but for AJ specifically,
we'll talk about the name AJ at some point.
All right, cool. So for AJ specifically, there's one moment where I remember us walking back from. So Hartpury had a bar. We walked to the bar. I can't remember what we were doing there. I think we were just looking around. It's like one of the first couple of nights. And then we're walking home from the bar and we hear someone from like the other end of like a car park or something, and they're making monkey noises. And that just I can never forget that. Do you know what I mean? Because it was at first I didn't know how to react because I was like, we're all talking to each other like, was that a monkey noise? Did they just make a monkey noise? Like, we're not sure. And then one person in the group was like, that was definitely a monkey noise. We're going to find this person right now. And we tried to run after them, but we couldn't. We knew who it was and we saw them, but we couldn't catch up to them. But we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to react. We knew we were a minority and we tried to bring it up. But I still think for the college, they didn't know how to react either. And I don't think they were equipped to kind of take it any step further. I feel like if that happened in today's day and age, I think a lot would happen. But back then, it didn't happen. But in addition to Jamal's question, like obviously culturally, there were some changes and I know things felt good for you, especially straight away. So AJ's profile as a footballer is very athletic, so I feel like straight away he stands out. Like he could just run down the wing, and he's the quickest guy. He's the quickest person on the pitch, so he like stands out instantly. And he was developed. He had that divide in your leg. Every footballer is trying to get that. Do you know what I mean? AJ had that already. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of these things helps you stand out. So I know for you, out of the group that we had, you were the first to break into the Hartpury teams. So how was that for you breaking into the Hartpury teams? And were there any cultural differences to London? Do you know what I mean? So like in the London changing room, you playing for South Bank and comparing it to Hartpury's changing room.
It's a great question. I think this probably brings me on to like the whole AJ thing. So yeah, my full name is Abimbola Johnson Olabode, and up until 16, everyone called me Bim. And when I came to Hartpury, with hindsight, there is some regret but I felt like coming from London, living in Gloucester, I felt like my name was going to be a hurdle. I remember in secondary school, when the teacher's going through the register and they're trying to say your name, and like they're just like, and like it got to a point where like I just remembered the person whose name was above me, surname. Oh, the moment they said their name, when they kept on my name, I'll be like, I'm here, rather than them trying to mess up my name. So when it came to Hartpury, I was just like, this is like a fresh opportunity. You know, I think a year prior, like I changed my mom changed my birth surname to Olabode. And I felt like Olabode was a bit more palatable compared to my previous surname. And I thought this was a nice opportunity to just kind of go by the name AJ, you know. So that's where AJ came from. But like I feel like with the age we're in now, maybe I didn't embrace who I was. And I wish I maybe asked people to go the effort to know how to pronounce my name. Like Bim was fine, but like if it takes you 4 attempts to learn how to say Abimbola, I'm worth that. You know, we learn how to say Zuckerberg. You know, it's not easy, but like because he's a person of importance, we learn how to say that. So like that's where AJ come from. So if you see Julian call me Bim, I've known Julian since I was like 4 or 5. That's what he calls me. But yeah, so coming to your question, I think if I'm honest, I was a bit shocked by how quick I broke into the Hartpury team, or maybe even caught the attention of some of their coaches there, because I will hold up my hand and say, of the group of people that went from London, Julian and another guy, don't know if I should mention his name, they were better footballers than me. From young, I've always considered them better footballers than me, all round. So I was kind of a bit shocked by how I broke in, and it didn't even look like they'd even seen the potential of these guys. But like I took the applaud nonetheless. As far as the changing room, from London, like, you know, there wasn't really much. You just like turn up, had your boots. Like for myself and Julian, like we played for the same team 2 years in a row prior to moving to Gloucester. Like we'd kind of established authority in the change room. So like when the kits came out, like they saw number 14, they gave it to Julian. They saw number 10, they gave it to me, and everyone else can like pick whatever shirt they want. It got to a point where like I think me and Julian took our shirts home, like, and no one could say anything. So you come into this environment where like, okay, you kind of feel like everyone's trying to stamp their authority. But I think some of these people maybe had played against each other growing up, and like, you know, there's small talk going on between them, and I'm just kind of like, where do I fit in, type of thing. So as far as culture, like there was a lot to learn. Like I saw people come with towels, shower gel, flip flops, and I'm just like, why? So like, it was at Hartpury that I learned, oh, these people are expecting to shower after the game. And I was just like, okay, like it was a thing. So if you didn't shower, they will ask you like, are you not gonna shower? And it's not even like, it was little to do with the hygiene, but it was the camaraderie. Like we showered together. And that was, and I saw them naked. And I'm just like, okay, cool. So it was kind of like, okay, give or take, like I belong in this team because I put in the work, but like I didn't want to be the guy that was awkward. Like everyone's in the shower, so like that took some getting used to. Like I remember, like if I'm being honest, for a couple of games, I would shower in my boxers, like because I was like, this is the most I can do. Like I can't get fully naked in front of you
I think
guys.
we've all been there, man.
So I just want to throw this out there. So were you the only black person in the team at the time?
Yes. I was the only black person in the team.
And do you reckon that played a factor as well as to why maybe you might want to shower in your boxers, or because obviously I know growing up in London, you play football, especially when you're playing like Sunday league teams and stuff like that. Half the time, the change room's not working. The showers are what I mean. The facilities are not always there. So it was just a thing where you turned up, you get changed in your kit, you go home, you put your tracksuit back on, and then you shower when you get back home. And it's very normal to do that. But then obviously now you've stepped up, you've gone to Hartpury College. I think it was at the time, it might still be the best sports college in the whole of the country. So their facilities are tip top. So there's no excuse. You have to shower. You have to shower because the shower's there. Whether you live there or not, kind of thing. It's like, okay, the shower's there. It's clean. You have access to ice bath, hot baths. You have everything there. So you can't be like, oh, I'm not gonna do this. Do you know what I mean? So do you reckon maybe either your skin color or any discrimination or anything, any of these things that might be in your head, that like a little chip on your shoulder, it might not actually be true, but it's like with these little things that may have played a part in the way you may have acted as well?
Like, I have to be completely honest. I think the biggest part for me was there's this whole thing about like black men are hung, and I was like, I don't want to have a conversation about my man part. Like, I'm just here to play ball, So that was like the big thing in my mind. Like, I don't want to have that conversation. Yes, that was the biggest thing. It was like, and like I with hindsight, like, man, I saw boys do stuff like as they're walking back to the change room, just in anticipation for when they get into the shower, like they look a bit bigger than, and it was just kind of like, you know what, like I'm not on that. Like, I have a sense of like dignity, So yeah, that was for sure like the biggest thing that kind of like caused me not to want to have a shower fully naked. And I think as far as like being received in the change room, I wouldn't say that I had any issues. I think I was quite convinced that I wanted my football to do the talking for me. And I think thankfully, like, my football did the talking for me quite early. I think I scored on my debut, and then at home, and then the second game we went away, I scored 4. So yeah, quite early, like, my football did the talking. But yeah, I think as far as like discrimination from the people that I played football with, I would say for the most part, either I was naive or I was approached with a lot of curiosity. So for a lot of these people, I don't think they'd ever been like in such close proximity with someone from London. So they will ask you like, where are you from? And I'll say like Southeast London. And it's like, where? Like, not many people knew like Dulwich, so I would say Peckham. And when you hear Peckham, it's like, raw, like, have you seen someone get stabbed? And I'm just like, no, like, so there was this notion maybe that either I was maybe a bad guy that was really good at football, or a good footballer that if you got in his bad books, he knew someone that could deal with you, type of thing. So those are some of like the stereotypes that I definitely faced. And I think even moving to Gloucester, like where Hartpury was, it was quite a far away from town. So like I think maybe for the first couple of months, I let my hair grow, and it was kind of like foreign to them, to see someone let their hair grow. And I think at the time Julian had cane roads, yeah, cane roads when we moved. Yeah. And it was kind of like can I touch your hair? I think they got it more than me because they actually had braids, but like going from like flat hair to like come the winter time, I got a little fro and I'm picking it out. It was all new. It was all new to them, man. It was all new to them.
It's mad because it'll be interesting to see the comparison to you, Jam, because obviously you've lived in Gloucester your whole life, and do you feel like you felt maybe some of the same kind of slight discriminations or stereotypes that maybe AJ has felt?
Yeah, definitely. But I think for me, where it kind of differs is because I've grew up in Gloucester. This was just part of football, part of that community around football and the banter. It's only now looking back on it where I start to think, okay, yeah, that's not right. That coach shouldn't have said that. That player shouldn't have said that. That player shouldn't have done this. That I realized that some of these things are wrong and shouldn't have happened. But growing up, it was just, I guess I accepted it more. I guess a bit like AJ said, I was maybe a bit naive to what was going on. I just turned up to play football and that was it. And yeah, it's an interesting story because being the only black person in any team up until I turned pro. So from 5 to 18, I've always been the only black person within the squad. So just being an outcast was normal. So I didn't have anything to compare that to, which probably made it easier almost.
No, it's true. It's true. No, I think it's a story that definitely needs to be told. I don't think many people even talk about it. I don't even know any professional foot players who talk about those kind of changes. Because I'm sure like we've seen players who are like from the roads, like in London, like say someone like Now Ranger, for example, he's gone to Newcastle. Like that culture shock in itself it's going to be so mad. Do you know what I mean? And he's obviously kind of more lean towards some of the, like his friends around him had a negative influence on him, but we might have had the positive influence. So where he's saying, where someone's asking you, oh, do you know someone who's been stabbed or whatever, we can't say that, but Now Ranger might be able to say that. Do you know what I mean? And then that stereotype is different for him. You know what I mean? It's always going to be labeled the bad boy, blah, blah. No one's going to see him as the person, as the individual. They're always going to be labeling him with this kind of like bad image sticker, if you know what I mean? So, but I think it's just really important that you guys both share those things. But yeah, back to you, AJ. In terms of like your whole experience at Hartpury, obviously you was there for 2 years. You had a successful time there, I would say. That you were playing football, you scored goals, and then you kind of go into the situation of where there's now competition. There's a new wave of football people coming in. But I guess obviously you get that with anything. Jamel, I'm sure you felt the same way, where you've got your pro contract and now you're fighting for a place as opposed to you're starting every week because you are, under for the youth team. So it's that men's football is a different thing. But for you, Age, like, what would you say are some of the harsh truths that you found out playing football at a competitive level that you probably didn't know or didn't even get to experience in London?
There's politics, man. There's politics. Yeah, like Julian probably was there hearing me rant and rave. Sometimes we talk about even as and when necessary. But like, I think Hartpury showed me that there were politics, that talent just isn't enough, man. And yeah, I think there were probably times at Hartpury where I didn't enjoy my football, just because I was just like, man, I just want to play football. Like, so yeah, I think the harsh reality is that I don't want to say, obviously, I've never been like at an academy or like been maybe on the road to go pro, but maybe like you said, with anything, there are harsh realities and some sort of competition. So yeah, I think navigating politics was definitely something I wasn't aware of, and it hit me hard. It hit me really, really hard. Like, I think, just for context, there was in the second year of Hartpury, I think Hartpury had, maybe it was the first time they had done it. I'm not sure, because in my first year, I wasn't aware of any people that had been picked up from release trials or exit trials. I think that's what they call them. In my second year, there were a couple of people that came in. So when I'm in my second year, they were in their first year. And at Hartpury, or college football, it's under 19s. So there were people that came in that they had picked up from exit trials, and some of them were good. But as far as those that were in my position, just because of where they had come from, I thought they had a bias towards them. Fair enough. But like, my issue was when it came to facts and stats, I was like, you can't ignore what I'm doing. Like, I remember there was a period where there was one particular player that was being started because I think he was at Derby. Fair enough. He was a different type of player to me. If I was to use present day footballers, he was maybe a Giroud, could hold up the play, was fit for a 16 or 17 he had presence, while I was maybe your Eddie Nketiah, for instance. Like, Giroud may get like a flick on one every 6 games, but like, my stats were, I would come off the bench, bang 1, come off the bench, bang 2, come off the bench, bang 3, and I was just begging to start, you know. And I, for a period, I didn't enjoy my football just because of the politics. And I think a second thing that was hard to like navigate was I think it's the idea of, you kind of go from being painted like a picture, and then you feel like it's taken away from you. So like, in between the summer of year 1 and year 2, I decided to stay in Gloucester, 1 to work, 2 to use the facilities. And in that summer, like, I trained with the academy side, because I was on campus. We had like, we did like hill sprints with the army, and I was kind of like, right, I feel like I'm going to be very close to the first team. And come the year, like, it was almost like, who's this guy? Like, and I was just kind of like, I was training with the first team. Are you not gonna like explain like what's going on? You know, and that's one of the harsh realities that I face. Like, I kind of felt like I was kind of dangled a carrot, and it was kind of just like taken from me, and like no one told me kind of like what was happening, you know. And yeah, man, that's definitely some of the realities that I faced, just to say too, when I was at Hartpury, man.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm sure Jam's probably faced similar, politics when it comes to football as well. Because, that competition in itself is because obviously you're painting this picture. You know how good you are. They know how good you are. But then sometimes what the difference is, like we might be naive when we're playing, is that you think the difference should just be based on how good you are.
Mm,
But sometimes the difference is a player's reputation, or where they've been before. They're just going to start every single game. Yeah, because okay, this guy was from Derby. That's it. Or maybe how they integrate into the team. Like we've seen people who are probably not the best talent-wise or even physically, but they get on so well with the coach.
yeah.
Like they're just like hand on glove, and they'll just start. And you're like, what's going on here? And I can't lie, I feel like I hit that reality quite early. But I know with you, AJ, I know my first year I wasn't playing as much, but it felt like a transition because as you stopped playing, I started playing more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was annoying because it was like all we ever wanted with us, all the guys from London, for us to all be on the same team at the same time. And there'll be times where we just didn't understand why we couldn't just make this happen. We felt like we had the identity of football that will raise the level at the college. Like, obviously the different styles of London. So London, you pass and move, pass and move, pass and move, quick feet. That's what it was about. I can tell you now, me and AJ did not have a long ball in our locker until we got to Hartpury. There was no like long ball was literally a side foot, but you just lean back. That was it. Like that was not. That was no. There was no spraying. That was not a thing. We had to learn that at Hartpury, right? Because obviously in cage football, 5-a-side, that's not what you do. You don't do that. So that's something that we learned. But I totally lost my point there now. But I forgot what I was even saying. But anyway, I guess where I'm trying to get to is that like we quickly realized that it's not about our ability that separates us. It's not. It's something else. And then I feel like I quickly realized that. And once I realized that, I did an extra year at Hartpury. And that finally I just couldn't care. I just didn't care. And ironically, as soon as I didn't care, I was getting picked more. And I was playing week in, week out, and it was just like, and then there was people who cared, and they weren't getting picked. And like, Julian, what you doing? I'm like, literally, I'm just here to try and score some goals. Like that's what I'm trying to do. I saw some goals, go home. That is it. And I probably enjoyed my football more. I could come out, be myself a little bit, but the regret was not being able to play with my friends. And then I realized that was what I loved about football, playing in London and stuff, was that I got to play with my friends. And that is something that I hold true to today, is that I rather that than go play on a Saturday somewhere, don't enjoy it, dealing with these shower stories, dealing with these referees, dealing with these coaches, like all that stuff. I was like, nah, I don't wanna have to deal with that. There's one memory, specific Hartpury memory, where we used to do this thing called like a round robin, where we have a small-sided games, and all the London guys are all on the same team, and you play for 2 hours or whatever, and it was like one pitch is like the Premier League. Yeah. So you got like League One, League Two, no, League One, Championship, and the Premier League, and maybe Champions League or something. Yeah, so like 4 pitches, and I think we started off at the bottom, and you just got to work your way up. I think it's like 7-minute games or whatever. We absolutely cleaned up everybody, and I feel like it was only then I think they realized like, wow, they are good. I think that was the only time they realized maybe our ability, because I think before then, individually, I feel like they might not know how to integrate us into the team. Someone's got skills or whatever, they don't really understand how that works. And then I don't blame the college for that. I blame this kind of like England as a whole, just not knowing how to kind of bleed these kind of players. Like there's so many raw players in London who even me and AJ know who we think they should have made it easy, like way better than us. And you know, we just can't find a way to bleed these guys through. But in Brazil they can do it, in Spain they can do it, but you know, in England they couldn't do it at that time. Now they can do it, but I think back then it was really, really hard. So yeah, man. But I wanna like get to the medicine part. Yeah, we've spoken about football. Your time at Hartpury is over. Where are you looking now? Like, what was your decision? Like where did you go from here?
So I think in my second year of Hartpury, I played for Forest Green under 18s, and this again was a new experience. I think I didn't know, I didn't go there thinking I could play for like another side. I thought like college was just it. So when one of the players at the club, at Hartpury, was like, Forest Green are holding trials, like come along. I was like, okay. Had never heard of Forest Green. So went to Forest Green, played a great season there. They had a first team and a second team. Started off in the second team, ended up moving to the first team, and was kind of like switching in between. Was able to find my form quite quick. I think I did 8 goals in maybe 16 appearances for the second team, and maybe 10 goals in like 12 appearances for the first team. And at the time that season, they played at the first team's home ground at the New Lawn. So this was like the first time I played on the floodlights. And it was just like, man, I don't want this to stop. So my hope was I was going to get offered something. Again, didn't really know what the offer would even look like. So when like Hartpury officially end and Forest Green season officially end, I just knew I had to go back to London where home was. Always knew I wanted to go to uni, but I was kind of like in a predicament as to, I have this BTEC, I've got like a, what do they call it? Distinction. What can I do with this? Like, what sort of careers do people go down? Like, I think Hartpury had affiliations with University of the West of England. So if you were doing like physiotherapy or sports exercise science, that type of qualification, you could apply to like Hartpury and stay on. But I just knew that nothing really in the sports industry really caught my attention. I did consider sports medicine, just because I've always been fascinated by science. But then I was just kind of like, hey, I don't know what I'm going to apply for. A good challenge would be to study medicine and become a doctor. But I kind of knew that if I wanted to go down that route, just because when I was growing up, like my parents would be like, you're going to become a doctor. And I used to watch ER and things like those types of shows. I used to always find it fascinating. I just knew that a BTEC wouldn't get me into medicine. I applied just off the cuff, didn't get in, but wasn't expecting to get in. Ironically, like the day of my Hartpury interview, the interviewer was like, I've looked at your grades. Do you know you can do A-levels here? And I was just like, I didn't know that. And he was just like, I think based off your grades, you should do A-levels. And I was like, am I going to be able to play for the football team? And he was like, probably not. And I said, I'm not going to do it. And I was just, I don't regret that decision. But then I came back to London. I remember sitting down with my mom, and my mom was like, well, it's up to you. You could either study law because she had just, maybe at the age of like 46 or 47, decided she was going to go and study law. She was like, you can go and study law and then you can just use my notes and just be like my understudy, or you can just go and do like a basic science degree and just kind of see where that takes you. So I decided to do the basic science degree. Was at London Met University in North London, which is right next to the Arsenal Stadium. And then did that for a year and really enjoyed it. I just did basic biology, but basics chemistry, did a bit of psychology and like lab work. And then when I finished that, I think I tried to get Julian to come to London Met, and then I think they gave you like a unconditional offer, and the grades were like super low, and you was like, no, like I'm better than that. I'm not gonna go there. But then I ended up moving to the University of East London, and did biomedical science. And I think it was maybe about after a year of that I was kind of like, I actually like learning science. I actually like learning biology, cells, understanding how the body works. And it was probably at the age of maybe 21, going on 22, that I realized, hey, I think I want to become a doctor. But like, yeah, the journey from when I decided to want to become a doctor to when I actually started medical school was probably 7 years. And in between that time frame, I think there were 3 or 4 applications to get into medical school. But yeah, I think the journey to medicine, I think with every rejection, I kind of had to ask myself, like, why? Until this day, I even said it yesterday when I was at GP placement, that like, besides like football, I don't think I'd love anything else more. Okay, the only thing I found out that I love more is like medicine and being in a hospital. Like, and it was one of those two things. Like, if medicine didn't cut out, I'll probably try and go pro, try and get into the National League or something. But like, yeah, I think I found my sweet spot, man.
That's good.
I feel like I found my sweet spot.
That's good. I was gonna say, so like, let's break it down so it's like clear step by step. So you've left Hartpury, you've gone to London Met. What did you study at London Met?
It was just like a basic science degree.
Basic science degree. So it's like a foundation degree.
Yeah.
Then you went to the University of East London and you studied, what was
Biomedical science.
Biomedical science. And then from there, what was the next? Because I know you did masters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did a master's in neuroscience at
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience. And then, so let's just count how many years this is. So you left Hartpury at 18. 18, you did, and then the foundation was at 1 year.
1 year, so 19.
And then you did the biomedical science.
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years. So that's 4 years total. Plus the masters, was that 1 or 2?
2 years.
2 years. And then after that, is that when you entered medical school?
So after that, I worked.
Yeah.
I worked for like 3 years. So I worked from like 24 to 27.
24 to 27. 3 years you worked. And you're working at, was that Great Ormond Street?
Correct, Great Ormond Street.
So you're in the hospital, you're on the ground, you're responding to, I'm assuming, like, you're sending out appointment letters.
Correct.
All pre-COVID. Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID. So let's say like Great Ormond Hospital, just break it down, like what a day in the life would that look like? Like, what was your...
So I started off as a medical secretary. So I was like the right hand of consultant oncologists. So these doctors specialized in cancer in the children, and I would manage their calendar, manage their clinic appointments. They would give us, so it was me and another lady, they would give us their dictations, and then we would transcribe their dictations into like letter forms. They would proofread it, put their signature, post it off. We would take appointments and just basically organize their lives for them. So I did that for 18 months. And what the day would look like, so I'd get in about 9 o'clock. Probably between 9 and 9:15, the postman would come round and come like in a yellow bag, and you'd basically split the letters into consultants. You'd open all the letters and you'd basically quickly read it and just see if there's anything urgent. You'd separate the urgent ones, and you would stamp the date that you received it, put in their pigeonhole, and you'd sign into your emails, and just basically action anything that was urgent. So maybe a patient would have sent you an email saying, I can't make this appointment, or maybe for like a patient that had housing issues and they needed a doctor to write a letter to maybe justify why they needed a 2-bed rather than a 1-bed.
Yeah.
Basically action that kind of stuff. And then you'd spend the most part of your days just taking phone calls from patients, both international and local, contacting local hospitals. If you were expecting results for your consultant, and then rearranging hospital appointments, as well as sorting out letters as well. So that was pretty much what the day would look like. I was just like a PA.
Okay, cool.
To consultants, and then halfway through, I moved to another role, which is like performance and data management. So my role was more, these are the various hospital appointments under this specialty. We have maybe 6 appointments a day, 5 days a week, and we have maybe 200 patients that we need to try and see. And my job was basically to speak to management and say, hey, our workload in terms of how many patients are coming in don't fit into these slots. We need to either hire a new doctor, because the idea was, because Great Ormond Street is what you call a tertiary hospital and it's consultant led, there were timeframes that the government set for the doctors to see the patients, or the hospital will pay a fine. So my role was basically just to say, hey, this patient, it's usually called the 18-week referral to treatment, RTT. This patient has been waiting for an appointment for 4 weeks and we don't have slots for the next 8 weeks. To save us paying this £15,000 fine, for instance, do we need to hire a temporary doctor? Do we need to extend the clinic? And I was basically just advocating, just saying, hey, this fine, we can't avoid it. Just know that this is going to come. But on the flip side, just say, hey, like, this is what I think we should, this is what we should do. And just begging doctors to like try and see more patients. So that's what my work life was there for like 3.5 years.
That's crazy. Like I don't think I would ever even have had that insight into like even you just saying that a hospital could get fined for not being able to fit a certain amount of patients in. I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know that would be a thing, because it's almost a thing that, oh yeah, you're gonna be, waiting lists are really long. Do you know what I mean? Or I might not be able to see. I know for me, if something was wrong with me, sometimes I might hesitate to even try and contact a doctor, because I just feel like, oh, I'm not going to see them for ages. Do you know what I mean? By the time I see them, I'm going to be well again or something, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that. No, it sounds very, very interesting. And do you want to give like a overview in terms of like where you are now? I know you're studying, but you're obviously gaining experience at the same time. And then as you talk about that as well, just kind of like touch on fatherhood over how that overlaps, you know,
Yeah.
with what you're doing now.
So so I'm halfway through a 5-year degree. I'm year 3 of medicine. I've moved away from London because the university I got into was outside of London. Actually, not too far from Gloucester, actually. So yeah, eventually started medicine. I think I was 28 when I started, so I'm now 30. Medicine's intense, man. Medicine is intense, and I'll be lying if I said that my time at Great Ormond Street hasn't really shaped me, because like becoming a doctor isn't sexy. Like, I think with COVID, like I think the medical field has been scarred, and it will take a while to recover. But yeah, nonetheless, like, I think I'm happy that with the journey I'm on. Like, it's a lot of learning, a lot of dealing with new information, new levels of professionalism, adapting to responsibility. But I think also, besides my time at Great Ormond Street, I think there's a lot of transferable skills that I've taken from football into medicine, like teamwork, valuing contribution, leadership, self-discipline, and things like that. Me and my wife had a baby boy approaching 8 months now, which has been, yeah, you guys are fathers, man. It's just nothing like it, man. There's just nothing like it. Like, yeah, but I think that's recent times presented like new challenges just because of how young he is. Like, I think in the last 2 weeks, there's been a number of nights where I've left the house before he's fully awake and come home when he's asleep. And it's just like, okay, like, I need to kind of like do my best to adjust my schedule so I don't feel like he's gonna forget me, if that makes sense. But on top of that, just understanding that it's a lot on my wife, and it's important that I manage, my medical career with marriage and parenthood, and like, it's a juggle. Like, I don't have it all together. It's a juggle. There's apologies when I need to apologize. I think even more recently, like, I just had to tell my wife that, like, I would like to be the person that says I'll be home at 5:30 and like make it happen, but like, I've just had to accept that medicine sometimes won't allow me to do that. Like, if you think it's going to take maybe 15 minutes to talk to a patient and you realize, man, the patient says they're depressed, because of COVID, they have no visitors. And like, you're the first person that's sitting down with them to talk to them. And then you realize, man, like, forget trying to ask what this person's past medical history is. They just want to kind of talk to someone, And then you realize your 15-minute goes to 40 minutes. And then, yeah, you realize that, oh, man, I wanted to leave here for 5:30, but I can't, so that's where I'm at now. Like, I'm juggling with a smile, but I'm juggling, man. I'm juggling.
It's good, man. I feel like I know how hard it is. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, we got different obstacles and different challenges ourselves. All three of us being fathers, and adjusting to just fatherhood in itself, I feel like it's a challenging one, and you have to wear a certain hat to kind of get through it. One being like you kind of have to lead a lot, or you make sacrifices and stuff like that. And it sounds like you're making a lot of those at the moment. Like in my head, I'm like, because obviously you're a married man, so like if we just use traditional, what's the word? Traditional stereotypes, so to speak. Like the man's meant to be the breadwinner, the provider. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what you're meant to be, and like you're having to juggle being that as well as a student, as well as being a father as well. So you're a husband. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's all these responsibilities that maybe other peers in your course don't even have to face, and alone, like they don't even facing those things, and they might not even be able to like get the grades that you might be getting, and you're like, why? You got so much time. Do you know what I mean? And like so it's good that we are now, like myself and Jamal, are able to just say to you, like, we're proud of what you're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? And just keep going, and you'll achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that journey that you've just gone on is unique. You know what I mean? From football, you just mentioned how football has helped shape you to be ready for medicine. Did I like? Not many people will be able to say that. Like football's, like me being in a changing room has helped me to be able to lead in a certain way, or work in a team in a certain way. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's really important to share that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's important to highlight that, because a lot of people coming out of football at 16, 17, 18 don't see a path for them outside of sport or fitness. So I think it's important to highlight that there are other routes to go down, and they might be unique like yours, AJ, and might lead to medicine or might lead to a different path, but there are paths outside of that fitness world that you can kind of take the skills, even if it's softer skills that you've learned throughout your football career, into a different space.
I agree. Have you seen that? I think Crystal Palace have come out with this initiative for people that have been recently released from their academy, and I couldn't doff my hat, to them anymore, because I don't know if it's the fault of social media, or maybe now a lot more people are woke to how lucrative football is. That, man, you're not even 16, like 15, like maybe even like Odegaard, for instance, when he was in Norway and he went to Real Madrid. I can't remember how old he was, but like
16,
massive contract, big enough to move his whole family, so like it's the idea, like you're at a professional club, and fair enough, they force you, to put in a lot of work, possibly move away, drop out of school to focus on football, and then you don't get pro, or you go get injured, and you feel like your life's gone, man. But there's definitely more outside of football. Definitely more outside of football. Now, I like what you said, Jamal, as far as like softer skills, man. Like, I think, the sort of people that I've surrounded myself with. Julian, said I'm maybe one of his guardian angels. I would definitely say, for sure, I remember conversations where Julian might say things like, if we're both playing for a local club and Arsenal comes along and Man United comes along, and there's an opportunity, for us to go our separate ways, like, would you take it? And I used to say, like, yeah, like if the money is good and I get to play my position, and Julian be like, no, you're just going to leave me alone. And then I think those sort of things, would teach me loyalty, and like it's softer skills like that, that people can take on, beyond football, man, that like you can actually pick something or pick someone and stay loyal, to it. So there's more to football, man.
It's true. And that secretly that can help you with marriage, your love life. Like there's the list could go on. Do you know what I mean? And one thing that I feel like I realized when it came to football is that you can use it as a tool. So we always kind of guided that football is the place that you want to be to make millions, and you get blinded by those lights. But really and truly, there are so much other things that you can gain that are not necessarily financial, that will just help you in other aspects of your life. And like for one thing, like me and my missus, we always talk about this. We might look at like different flags of the world. I know almost every flag, but like, and that just comes from football. It doesn't come from nothing else. Because I laugh at my missus and like, what, you don't know what flag that is? That's the Ghana flag, or that's the Nigerian flag, or do you know what I mean? And she's like, oh, I've never seen this flag before, or whatever. But World Cups, Euros, you know, all these different things, and it's like I learned that from, you know, I know exactly where it is. I know the names. I could look at somebody's last name and be like, oh, that's a Nigerian name. Or, oh, that's probably Belgian. You know, like different things like that. These are all like different soft skills that are just not even mentioned half the time.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, man. But it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Love, man. Love. And we're gonna quickly do our usual quick hot seat question. I'm gonna pose it to you first before posing it to Jamel's, as we usually do. So this should appear at the bottom of the screen. So a hot seat question is: are you a person who sees the glass as half full or half empty? And what are the benefits of both?
That's a good question, man. Am I a person that sees the glass as half empty? Full? I would say half full. Yeah, I would say half full. I would like to think that I'm quite optimistic and quite resilient, and yeah, kind of like have a drive for more. So I would probably say I see myself, or see the glass as half full. I guess the benefit of that, I think, for me, I think I've been able to bounce back from some tough situations, just because of that perspective. But I think equally, maybe I've been unrealistic at times as well with that mentality. But yeah, I think for me, I would say I see the glass as half full. Half full.
Wicked. Wicked. What about you, Jam?
Yeah, I think the same, to be fair. Yeah, definitely see it as half full. I think, again, I feel like I've always tried to stay optimistic with my thoughts, even if I do kind of over predict certain things or get my estimations wrong, or if I picture goals that are too far out of reach. I kind of always try to kind of think that way. I guess when I haven't, it may have been at my lower times, and you can kind of limit yourself with those expectations you set yourself. But yeah, majority of the time, definitely half full.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I think for me, I find it hard to say that I'm just half full, because I like to think I am, but I feel like it's situational. Like there's certain things, and I'm like, yo, okay, yeah, optimistic there completely. But then there's other things I'm like you could be like let's say, for example, when I was younger, I never went out in my heart because my expectation was rubbish. Like my thing is, okay, it's half empty. Like we go there, we're gonna do this, get distract you, and then like I can't play football the next day. But the reality is that you can still probably go out and set us a limit and have a good time and still play football the next day. But I'm like looking at it in certain aspects. So for me, I feel like I'm a proper balance between the two. It just really depends on the situation. But I do feel like, depending on the situation, if you do look at a glass being half empty or half full, it can protect you from certain things in that situation. Do you know what I mean? Because you definitely need to, because there's a limit, like you guys mentioned. There's like, if you look at something and you're too optimistic, it almost puts you in dreamland, and it's like that's not like a realistic element anymore. Do you know what I mean? Then you start overestimating, not reaching the goals, and you keep moving the goalposts and blah blah. But there's an element where you need to kind of bring it back home and, okay, look, this is the actual situation. The glass is actually half empty, so we need to fill it up. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like there's that element. So yeah, man. Thank you guys for answering that, man. Yeah, I'm happy to wrap it up there, man. AJ, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for
Thank you.
me, both of you, man.
No worries, man. No worries, no worries. Sharing your journey, trust me, this will be important to somebody. I like to do these kind of career specials where we can talk to people who have come from one aspect of life and now they're trying to go to somewhere else. And it just shows that, especially to the kids these days, I mentor quite a few kids, and I want them to know that you don't need to feel like you have to make this one decision right now. Like, there's so much pressure on them. Like, they don't understand that. Like, like, especially like people in like year 9 and year 10 and picking their GCSEs, they feel like, if I don't choose this GCSE, I can't become a lawyer. And it's like, whoa, there's so much more of life that you haven't experienced yet to know what you even like. Just try things. Just try things. Do you know what I mean? And you'll find your path. So yeah, your story is very important. So I just want you to know that as well. So yeah, man, a pleasure. And obviously, Jam. Oh, you're gonna add something to that, Jam?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, main takeaway for me from the pod today is, I think the ability to think long term. I think just AJ speaking about his career to date and his footballing journey, they're both, I guess, long term strategies almost. He's thought about the start and the end goal, no matter how long it may take. He's kind of stuck, and he's compounded those thoughts, those actions, and it's led to where he is today. So to definitely take a lot from that, because like you said, people can get so caught up with the now and making these short-term decisions without thinking where they actually want to be. So yeah, it's been insightful, man. Yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and yeah, definitely learn a lot.
Touch, man. Thank you, both of you, man. Thank you.
Love, man. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you for listening to the Social Living Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow. We're out on all listening or all audio platforms. I'm your host, Julian Green, and my co-host, Jamal Lawrence. We out.